So the summer is just about over, and with it we could finally leave behind the month of August, which is by far the worst month for film pretty much every single year. Seriously, there was absolutely nothing that released this month that was like significant, so this video will mostly just be, stuff that I rewatched, stuff that I watched for the first time, and TV shows. Either way, I don't want to waste any more time, so here's everything that I watched in the month of August. I started out the month finishing the last 2 seasons of The Leftovers, and I made an entire 17-minute video on this show, so I'll save my detailed thoughts on that, link down below. But to sort of summarize my feelings, The Leftovers is one of the smartest examinations of faith and belief that I've ever seen when it comes to storytelling, and it delivered a plot that truly challenged me to think about my own beliefs in life and like the roots of faith in general. The second season of the show reinvents itself in a way that I'm not sure that I've ever even seen a TV show do, and it allows for the second season to eclipse the first season in just about every way. The characters are all grounded and flawed, which allowed me to connect with them on a personal level, and the score throughout is absolutely tremendous. This has to be one of the best scores in any TV show I have ever watched, including like Succession and Breaking Bad and shows that have great scores. This show is absolutely amazing, and besides a really rushed final season that didn't exactly hit on all of its ideas, I'm still incredibly happy that I invested my time into this. I then watched Band of Brothers for the first time, the Steven Spielberg-produced miniseries that depicts the stories of the 101st Airborne Division Easy Company during the war across Europe during World War II. This series, although extremely slow at times, gave me exactly what I kind of wanted from a show like this. I mean, a dose of an engaging amount of history that allowed for the heroism and the stories of the men to actually connect with the audience and shine through without including all of the politics and propaganda that usually bleeds through American-made war films. World War II stories are easier to do because, obviously the Nazis are the most famous bad guys in the world, and maybe the history of humanity, therefore it's really easy to relate to the fight against those villains. But altogether, the series is more about the brotherhood that forms between the soldiers on the battlefield versus the actual fight itself, and this series definitely captures that to an extent. I think the second half of the series is significantly better than the first half, with the final 2 episodes specifically being extremely bone-chilling and really fascinating from a history point of view. I wish some of the battles would capture the level of honesty and graphicness that stuff like the recent All Quiet on the Western Front movie captured, but the fights were still accurate to the nightmarish nature of war that a lot of American war movies just failed to kind of capture because of the whole military-industrial complex thing. I don't know. I then watched Andrei Rusev, and I'm trying to really get into Mr. Tarkovsky and his work, and overall I enjoyed this movie. I can't say I was really interested in this famous Russian painter who is an extreme religious figure in the country's history, and I can't say that the story as a whole resonated with me, like, in any way, but there was something so engaging about the cinematography here and the look of the film in general that I just could not look away from the screen. Every shot, every moment, every pixel on the screen felt so deliberate, and it kind of put me in a trance where, although I wasn't super engaged with the actual story, I couldn't help but think about how perfectly the entire production and the picture felt. I've heard many people call Tarkovsky the Russian Stanley Kubrick, and I honestly couldn't agree more. I think Tarkovsky shares in all of Kubrick's strengths when it comes to the strict attention to detail, but also in some of his weaknesses, because then I watched The Stalker and I did not like it at all. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm just a stupid man.
You're a stupid man! A stupid man!
The consensus on this film is that it is a masterpiece, but to be completely honest with you, to me this was nearly 3 hours of people just walking around and not really doing much. The film has a cool concept, admittedly, and the themes are really great, specifically when you finally get to the end and you sort of get a resolution to the journey that these characters are going on thus far, but the journey itself is an absolute struggle to get through, and the cinematography here, in my opinion, because clearly I'm in the minority of opinion on this one, is significantly less interesting and uglier than something like Andrei Rusev, which might have been intentional. I actually think it was probably intentional, but I also read that this entire film had to be reshot because the first time they filmed it, they actually lost all of the film. It was destroyed, so they had to redo the entire thing, which would kind of explain a lot of my issues when it comes to that stuff. But I don't know, maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe I didn't also get 2001: A Space Odyssey. Maybe I'm just not a smart movie watcher. All I know is that I did not enjoy my watch of it, and that's all I have to really say from that. I did enjoy my viewing of Lost in Translation, though, and my god, Scarlett Johansson is so hot, and I am not afraid to say it. This movie is an excellent work from Sofia Coppola, bringing together 2 unique characters played by Johansson and Bill Murray himself, who meet in Japan, both at sort of a crossroads in life. This film is a terrific character study on regret, on depression, on what it's like to legitimately be lost in life. And I truly loved every second of it. I mean, it's funny, it's sad at times, it's not afraid to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, because guess what? Life is uncomfortable, and sometimes the things that we experience through life are not going to leave us in comfort, and sometimes we'll find comfort in things that are uncomfortable in a weird, strange, metaphorical way. And altogether, this movie is really just about life in that sense of the word. Bill Murray is so good here, and it might be my favorite performance that he's ever put out there. I mean, there's scenes with him that are legitimately just absolutely hilarious that had me pissing myself. He is so good in a lot of the stuff that's going on here. Altogether, I'm really really glad I watched this. This was on my list for a very long time, finally got around to it, and it did live up to the hype. I then watched all of these Edgar Wright videos because I'm getting ready to do a big Edgar Wright video, so I will talk about those in that video coming probably in the next week or two. But then I watched Paris, Texas for the first time, which was directed by Wim Wenders, and although I wasn't familiar with Wenders' work before this, I now want to watch everything that he has done, including his new film, which I will be seeing at the New York Film Festival in about a month. Paris, Texas, in the simplest, is a film about love, and that's pretty much all I want to give away on this plot, because this film is truly a special experience when you go in with absolutely no expectations on what to expect. What I will say is this is a beautiful film with amazing characters, a truly gripping and emotional story, masterful dialogue. I mean, the dialogue in this thing is so good. It drags you into the film, kind of like Scorpion, and the visual style of this movie is tremendous. It's got such a beautiful and vibrant look to it. It really pops, and it's something that you will remember when walking away from this film. There's a very long sequence later in the film where it's just two characters in this unique setting, and they're just kind of talking, and there was something so, I don't know, there was such a high in that moment. I felt like I was on drugs. Not that there was anything drug-related in the scene, but it just, I don't know, it had me feeling a way that I don't know if I've ever felt watching a movie like this. It was just so good and so well made, so well written, so well shot. This is a very, very underrated movie. It is a 5 out of 5, and I recommend you go watch it. Go watch it tonight. I then watched The Pacific, which was the spiritual follow-up to Band of Brothers, which depicts the other side of the Americans' involvement in World War II through the Pacific Front against the Japanese. This series was definitely a step down from Band of Brothers, in my opinion, taking what worked best about that show, the personal relations between the soldiers and the connections to the audience with the real-life figures behind these characters. And instead, it plays out the battles and events as more of a conventional Hollywood war film and war depiction that just did not resonate or connect with me at all. And yeah, at times it can be completely compelling and keep you engaged as viewers in these battles themselves. I mean, it's well made. I mean, it does depict war as a nightmarish hell scene. I mean, a lot of the battles are really tough. They're really, terrible. And in that sense of the word, it does do a good job, but all of the slower moments between the characters just are not done nearly as well as Band of Brothers. And as a whole, they just don't leave as much of an impact as the show's predecessor, which is why the rating here is lower. Still worth the watch, though, if you like World War II stuff. I'm sure if you really love World War II stuff, you've already watched it. Then I saw Blue Beetle, and it was incredibly generic. I did a whole review on this one where I really go into detail on why I didn't love it, so I'll keep it brief. This film is a copy of about 50 other comic book origin films that I'm sure you've all seen, and although the characters here are charming at times, and some of the action and the comedy does hit well, it's altogether just not a significant film that I'm gonna remember past, well, I already forgot. Then I watched Woody Allen's Annie Hall, and this was amazing. This is one of the few films that does the whole breaking the fourth wall thing extremely well, and Allen's performance here is so human. It reminded me kind of like of Jerry Seinfeld's performance in, well, Seinfeld. The basic plot about the difficulty of relationships and love is easy enough for any audience to find some sort of connection to, and the writing here is so quick and nuanced, it stops the audience from ever becoming bored or uninterested in the plot. The movie is an absolute classic for a reason, and I definitely recommend it. It's another one that was on my list for a very, very long time, finally got around to it, and I loved it. I then saw The Hill, a new sports movie about a kid trying to become a Major League Baseball player, despite protests from his preacher father, played excellently by Dennis Quaid, and besides Quaid's performance, this movie is mostly a nothing burger. It doesn't have the charm of an uplifting sports drama with a motivational and lighthearted plot, because the film just takes way too long to get going, and to set up an actual story to grasp onto. The script is just not that great, and it feels really cheap, and maybe it is cheap. This is a movie that I feel like was a very low-key movie that somehow got a worldwide release, and I'm not really sure as to why, because the script is just not, like, amazing here. And it's trying to balance so many different ideas, and it doesn't really exactly hone in on one of those ideas to focus on. Therefore, the film kind of becomes a mess, and it just leaves you kind of bored throughout pretty much the entire runtime. It does have entertaining moments, it does have your big sports movie moments that you come to expect, and yet again, Dennis Quaid is really, really good in this movie. But all in all, it's definitely one of the weaker films I've seen this year. I then rewatched The Dark Knight because I've been studying the screenplay for this movie lately, and yeah, it's one of the greatest films ever made. I can go really in depth here, but I've done it in past videos a few different times, so what I'll say about The Dark Knight is this. It's one of the best scripts that I've ever read, since that's what I've been reading and what I've been doing. An absolutely amazing script. It's extremely well paced. I mean, the pacing in Nolan's scripts, because I've read a few of them, is absolutely insane. Kind of terrifying as an aspiring writer who's trying to comprehend how to write something like this. It's just absolutely crazy. But the script's amazing, the movie's amazing, it's a masterpiece, everybody knows. I then watched BS High, the new HBO documentary of Bishop Sycamore, the weird fake high school football team that somehow was playing games against some of the best schools in the country on national television. This documentary was absolutely hilarious and very well made. It's absolutely wild what happened here, and even if you're not a sports fan, which I'm sure a lot of people aren't that are watching these videos, I definitely recommend watching this because it's still a truly bizarre story and a really weird circumstance. It's unlike anything you've ever seen, I'll tell you that. I then finished the month watching Ahsoka, and I'll have more to say on this one next month and through videos throughout the rest of the month. I didn't love it so far, but yeah, we'll talk about it more next month. And that's what I watch in August. Sort of a boring month, but you know, oh well. September will be a little bit slow as well, but then when October kicks around, I'll be attending the New York Film Festival, as I said earlier. I will have a lot of content to talk about, a lot of movies to talk about. It's going to be amazing. But yeah, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. Make sure to turn on notifications to see everything that I post when I post it. And I'll see y'all in the next one.